All right, we are here with Nicole Keating, and Nicole is the host of the Art of Epic Wellness podcast. And the podcast is really designed to help people get clarity on their vitality and health, and really empowering people to have health today. But Nicole, what I love about you is that you bring so much joy, and not only do you have a great message, but I think you really embody that message. And we got a chance to hang out last week, and just spending a little bit of time with you, I can see why people are attracted to your podcast. But I'm very interested on the reason why you feel that this is worth devoting your time and your life and doing something that is free. Why do you feel so compelled about living a healthy life today? Why does that stand out to you?
Wow. Well, Hector, it would have to go back to my story, and I want to give as much value as possible on this show for everyone, but I'll just do a quick rewind because it will make sense when I tell you. And when I was the millennial age, right? When I was about you guys' age, I moved out to California, and I was living the life. I was going hard, having fun. I kind of had a sleep when you die mentality, like this is just great, and I was just having the time of my life, but I don't think I was living a really rich, fulfilled life. I was having a lot of fun, and at that time fun meant hanging out, going to parties, being in the scene at that time in my life. So I had a relationship that lasted about 4 years, and it was super exciting and adventurous, but up and down. And about 7 years ago now, he passed away very suddenly. And so talk about flipping your life upside down.
Totally.
I call it my ground zero, right? Like, so I'm like, my head was spinning. I didn't know what to do. Everything I thought I knew was upside down. And so that began my journey. And I'd say it's been a real process. But initially, I just knew I wanted to love myself more and to have a better life. And I started kind of learning how to manifest what I want in my life pretty quickly after he passed away. A few months in, I was like, I had been working in the restaurant business 80 hours a week, and it was really intense. And I suddenly I loved it, but I didn't love, parts of it. And I just said, no, I need to do something more fulfilling that's going to help people. It wasn't enough for me anymore just to facilitate great experiences. I wanted to help people be able to experience life that way. So I started on this journey. I began doing art therapy and helping people with autism and Alzheimer's. And that was the beginning of my path. But as far as wellness goes, it actually came about 2.5, 3 years later. I was feeling better emotionally, not all the way, but much better. I was feeling better spiritually. I'd found a practice that really made sense to me, that was helping me with mindfulness. And then just physically, I was having problems, symptoms, not feeling good in my body. I kind of felt like an 80-year-old in a 30-year-old body. And I was like, what is going on? And so that's really where my wellness journey began. I knew I wanted more, and I like to tell people wellness is a practice. It's not some mountaintop that you get up on and you're like, I'm well and I'm vital and I'm great. Like, it's something you practice daily, like yoga or anything that you would practice and want to get better at. Like if you want to be a painter, you practice painting. If you want to be a speaker, you practice painting. You practice speaking. So wellness is like that too, and it's a beautiful way to look at it. And I came up with something that makes sense to me. So it's like, imagine like the infinity sign, right? And so on one side you have, I call it up level. So those are the good things that you want to add in. And that makes it a lot easier to do the other side, which is unburden. And those are the things you want to let go of that might not be serving you in your life. So this is like how I've decided to practice wellness. And it really applies to every aspect, whether you're talking about relationship, whether you're talking about the food and the fuel you're putting in your body, whether you're talking about, feeling fulfilled and doing what you love and being on purpose. This really fits all of that. If that makes sense.
Tell me, I'd love to circle back to that, but actually, I'm very curious. Can you explain a little more about what you mean by unlevel and unburden? Because I think that's, I'd love a little more clarity.
Sure. So up level, it's like up, like raising. So one side is up level. So anything that you want to do to add in. So I'll give you an example, like a perfect example of something that has made me feel really much more vital. It's very simple. In the morning when I get up, I have a warm lemon water. I drink really good spring water, so that's an up level. Just drinking better water is an up level, right? But adding lemon makes it even better, so that's like a double up level. And then what I'm letting go of is maybe drinking that second, third, or fourth cup of coffee, right? Because I'm alkalinizing my body with this lemon water. I don't need that as much. I don't feel you know what I mean? So it makes it a lot easier to let go of things that you may be overdoing. I mean, we're in the age of addiction, and I know all about it, in many ways. And I've worked hard to I don't know if I'd even say overcome. Like, I know those things are still there. And I feel like all those things are within me now, but what am I choosing to pay attention to? What am I choosing to foster? What am I choosing to pour gasoline on? I'd rather pour gasoline on the best parts of me so I can become even better. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's great. And you mentioned something at the beginning of your story, saying that you had a different concept of fun. And I think our generation gets really like, I don't know, we were really sold this idea that college is supposed to be this time where you're supposed to go away and have this fun. But what I found is that like nobody is really fulfilled in college, right? Like nobody is like there's not a lot of like real happiness. So what were some things that showed you, or what were some things that kind of made it apparent that maybe your real values weren't aligned, or maybe that you were not going in the direction in which you really should be? I think I'm asking a terrible question, but
no, that's okay.
How could someone maybe start to identify if they're in that situation where their fun isn't what's really making them happy?
No, you know what? That's a really great point to bring up, and a great question. I feel like, so when I moved out to California, that was definitely a turning point for me. I mean, there's many turning points, but I feel like I was in Miami, and it was all about like the bling and the beauty. And I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida, so that's like much more southern, down to earth, like very different. It's almost like it's the South where I grew up. And so people are really polite and hospitable and kind. And I was in this new place in Miami, and just, I was bartending and serving, and I'd make like hundreds and hundreds of dollars a night, and then I'd go blow it on a pair of like designer jeans, and we'd go out, and we might be at the same bar as Usher, or like, it was just like, that was what was exciting. But like you said, the next day I would wake up feeling empty. Like, so there was something not being fulfilled. And really for me, I think everyone listening, you are an artist creating your epic life. That's kind of my underpinning belief system, because I'm also a painter and an artist. And I feel like we are, we're like these creative spiritual beings. And when we stifle that, so, there's nothing wrong with having fun. At this point in my life, I still have fun sometimes. Like, I'll have a glass of wine with a girlfriend, but it's with the purpose of celebration. If I feel like that's the defining line for me, is like, am I wanting to have a drink, or am I wanting to watch, a bunch of Netflix because I'm bored, sad, depressed, lonely? Or is it because I have earned this break and I'm feeling really good and I want to hang out with my friend and really connect deeply, and we feel like doing that over a glass of wine? That's a totally different story than doing it because I'm trying to fulfill some emptiness, some need, some desire. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So now I think asking good questions, I wrote this down, as like asking yourself good questions about why you're doing something, not blindly going through your life. And I know, like, I have a 17-year-old stepson, and I know that you guys, the youth and millennials too, you guys are right on the edge of that, actually. Like, I feel like I got to develop really good soft skills because we didn't really have computers the same way we do now. I got to learn how to look people in the eye and hold people's hand and be warm and loving and caring. And that was kind of like my number one strength. I feel like today it's not so easy to develop those skills because literally, like, we're inundated with inputs and just channels flowing in, and everybody's kind of looking at the computer screen or the iPad or the phone, and bells are going off, and there's just tons of anxiety producing activities going on. So the soft skills can kind of go to the wayside. So that was something that came up for me. I know you were going to ask me this probably in the future. But if there's one thing millennials can work on is developing those connective soft skills, because that will set you apart from everyone else.
Yeah, that's great. And that's something that I was very lucky. I came up in sales, and I was lucky to have developed those there, because otherwise I wouldn't have had them. I think that they have to put themselves in those positions. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious about specifically. There is this trend that's going on, and I think our generation is kind of leading it, in the sense that my parents, when I look in their refrigerator, when I look in their pantry, I see processed stuff. I see sugars. I see, when I ask them about things like yoga or meditation, it sounds like a foreign word. However, this whole wellness thing, I think, is a very it's weird that it's a new thing. But what does that mean to you? What does wellness mean to you? And specifically, like, where do you see it? How does that fit into someone's like overall fulfillment and happiness?
Yeah, that's a great question. As far as like wellness, I think it's really short-sighted when we think of, like, some people. I think everybody has their own connotation of wellness, so they might think of fitness when they think of wellness. That's, or they might think of healthy food and like the health store as wellness, or they might think of having enough energy. I feel like having that one resonates with me. Having enough vitality and energy to be my highest self in any given situation that's what I feel like wellness is to me. Like, I want to be able to show up. I want to be able to inspire. I want to be able to lift people up. And if I don't have the energy and the vitality and the joy to do that, then I don't feel like I'm, experiencing wellness. It's also the opposite of dis-ease, right? Disease is dis-ease. It's being in a state of not having ease, not having flow in your life. It's, I think of the opposite of wellness is like stagnation, atrophy, not moving, not growing, kind of shrinking up and not having an expansive life condition to be able to bring people up with you. And so for me, it's a lot of it's about how can I be in the world? And that's kind of what I think of with wellness. Now, what you just said also is about like opening the fridge and seeing the processed food. So that's one definition. Another definition, or another way to think about it, that I feel is really easy and helpful. I came up with this acronym, and it's to kind of help people know how to think about food, because really, like, food is your fuel. It is your source of life. Like, if you think about like plants, they take in the sun's energy and they make food out of it. And then we take in those plants and that makes fuel for our cells. Like, it's actually kind of magical, right? And we've gotten so far away from it. Having all these packaged foods, 80% of the grocery store is that. And the more ingredients you see, the more processed it is, meaning the less vitality in that food, right? So I like to think of it as I've been asked, are you a vegetarian? No, I am a sourcitarian. I made that up, I think. But what I mean by that is, like, where did your food come from? So I created an acronym, and this helps anyone who's just like, well, what does that mean? It's called FLOWS, right? So F is for food as fuel. So you're thinking about what you're putting in your body as your fuel. It's just kind of a paradigm shift. Like, you don't want to burn, you wouldn't put diesel fuel into your car,
well,
right?
Let me tell you the difference. And I love my mom, but I find them as kind of like the foils of what is great. And I always tell her, here, try this. Why don't you eat this? And she says, why would I eat it? It doesn't taste good. And I said, well, it makes you feel good. And she says, but it doesn't taste good. Right? But I think that was like a big like part of what food was, is that it was only centered around it tasting good.
Yes.
So I wanted to jump in and throw that
No,
in
I'm
there,
glad that you did. And actually, I'm a child of the 80s. Like, I grew up on like Easy Mac and Captain Crunch. Like, trust me, and that actually created challenges. Like, I know. And I grew up taking antibiotics. Every time I got, anything, we'd get a Z-Pack. And now I happen to know that changes your gut flora, that changes your gut bacteria. And it takes a lot more work to get your gut bacteria back. And then if we're not working on that, we're passing that on to our children. So, so I was telling you, so the first one, is there a puppy? is so flows. So the L is for local. So it's really great to be plugged into the local food. And not everybody's blessed. I know you're in LA, so you're blessed to have farmers markets around you. But local food is an amazing source of higher quality, more nutrient density. And then the O is for organic. These days, I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to spend the money on organic, but actually, like, you don't want to spend the money on the doctor's bills later. That's the way I look at it. So when you're eating organic food, you're not getting the pesticide, specifically glyphosate, which is really, really damaging pesticide that tends to collect in your body. It doesn't just like go away. So the more pesticides we eat, and like a major one, like I hear, there's the whole green smoothie and the whole juicing revolution, and that is awesome. I couldn't be more happy that people are consuming those amazing foods. So important not to be consuming conventional foods. If you're having one of those every day, you're just drinking like pesticide smoothie tea, right? So, and then the last one is, or not the last one, and then it's whole, right? So we talked about the grocery store being filled with all kinds of packaged food. Whole food is food in its natural state, and it's pretty easy to tell what that is, right? It's like fruits, vegetables, fish, chicken, meat, all that. So whole foods, and knowing where those whole foods are coming from. And then the last one is S. So S, I put it for two things. It's for seasonal and for source. So always thinking of the source. Like when, I'm a little bit much more cognizant when I go out to eat, because I know I've been in the restaurant business. I told you that that's my background. So I know that the restaurant business, the margins are not great. So you got to know that unless they're actually proclaiming that they have whole organic food, or that they're getting their beef from a grass-fed beef purveyor, or they're getting their eggs from, pastured chickens, like they're probably not, because they have very small margins. So I always identify some really safe, great restaurants that I can double down and believe in. And otherwise, I try to eat really good at home and do the 80-20. And then the seasonal it's great to eat seasonally, because when you're eating seasonally, you're going to be eating with the nature's natural rhythm. And, we weren't meant to be eating bananas all year round and eating eggs all year round, and all the things we're doing, they kind of help promote allergies and other challenges for the body. So it's really good to eat seasonally for the natural rhythm of your body and the natural rhythm of Mother Earth, right? So if that makes sense, it's a really, hashtag flows, right? Something that you guys can remember.
Oh, that's great. I like that. I'm gonna. I didn't really think about the whole seasonal aspect, but I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, and you'll get like the best, like in where we live in California, we have an amazing season of these beautiful heirloom tomatoes, right? And it's right now, basically. It's August and September, and they're stunning and they're amazing. And then we're going into mushroom season, right? And root vegetables, and you kind of change the way you eat with what's available seasonally. It's really, really, really good for you.
I love it. That's great. I appreciate that. I like that analogy. I'd like to ask, because that's wonderful, really tactical advice. What are some other habits or skills, mindsets, really, that you feel would be important for someone who, specifically, what I find with our generation is that they are kind of starting something new, and maybe I find that they just don't have all of the tools to be able to go out and even like something like put a refrigerator together with food that they're actually going to be able to cook. I moved in with my girlfriend recently, and it's such a new experience, like grocery shopping.
Yes.
Like it's what so. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but what are some things that you feel would get someone started or get someone on the right path, or some must-dos if someone wants to kind of live your definition of wellness?
Okay, that's cool. I love that. I could give some tactical things, but I was just thinking about, I could talk about like the way I meal plan. I'll give you something tactical and then something a little bit more, spiritual, I guess. So like as far as how I cook in like small batches. So I basically usually on Saturday I will go to the farmer's market, and unfortunately it's not perfect. Not everything I need is at the farmer's market. In fact, I usually go to the farmer's market for my produce, and then whatever's like seasonally available, the farmer's market is a perfect snapshot of what is seasonally available, which is really, that makes it really easy, right? So, I'll get maybe some almonds and I'll make my own almond milk, and I'll go and I'll see what's available and I'll take it. And as I'm there, it kind of gets my creative mind going on what am I going to make this week? So I spend Sunday actually cooking. Like I'll batch cook. So I might make a like a big batch of quinoa, and I might separate it into two. And then one's going to be like super savory kind of, I'm going to maybe put some chicken and some vegetables with that one, and it's going to be Mediterranean. So I know I have olives and I know I have tomatoes. So I'm always like, I'm looking in my kitchen before I go, and I'm making a list. Like I use Trello, so I have like kind of a list of all the things I love to have on hand. Like some of the things on that list are avocados. I love to get like a roasted chicken. This is a great hack, you guys. I know you don't want to spend as much time as maybe I do, on this, because I do have a family to cook for right now. So hopefully for a long time right now. But yeah, so like one of the things that's great is like a rotisserie chicken, like a really nice clean chicken from Whole Foods. You know what? I could take that chicken and I will make it into all kinds of things. So I'll make it into a chicken salad. Like we'll have a few slices of chicken with some vegetables. I'll take the carcass and I'll put it in the crock pot and I'll make my own bone broth, which you can have as a meal, just really healthy, clean. It's great for when you're sick, if you want to throw it in the freezer, so that it's great to prevent getting sick, and it's great for when you're sick. Also, you could take it and make soup with it. So like I might know, like I have carrots, celery, and onions. So that's carrots, celery, and onions is a great combo. That's a mirepoix, and that goes as the base of any soup. So all you need to make any kind of soup is chicken stock or vegetable stock, and you could do the mirepoix, and then you could throw in some pasta. I don't eat pasta, gluten-free, but you could throw some of that in, or some rice in it, or you could throw some sausage in it, throw some potatoes in it. So I like to think of it, and I am an artist, but it's like my canvas. I feel like cooking can be really, really fun if you allow it. Another fundamental thing I always get are eggs, and I'll usually take half of the carton of pastured eggs, really clean fed, organic pastured eggs. I'll take 6 of them and I'll boil them in a pot of water while I'm making the quinoa, while I'm doing something else. So this is like a symphony going on, and I'm making a huge mess in my kitchen. But it's okay, because it's Sunday, and that's what I do on Sunday, to make sure I'm set up for the week. So I always make sure I have fixings for smoothies. One of the things I like to do, I don't like the same thing all the time. And I know you probably are like me. We like variety. We like novelty. We like adventure.
Totally.
Those things are great. I guess a big piece of advice I would give is like, you're talking to a very creative artist. Like it was really hard for me to even understand like why I needed rituals. Like I'm telling you, like creating rituals and structure in your life is what's going to allow you to be free. That's if I could tell you one thing, that's the truth. But I'm really different than other people in that I think that you can create adventure and fun and joy within those confines within that structure. So for me, like smoothie, I don't want the same smoothie every day. So what I do is I get like 3 different types of berries in my freezer, and I'll get maybe 2 or 3 types of greens, and then I'll get 2 or 3 types of nut butter. And then I have like chocolate. I have all these superfoods. So like rock organic cacao. I have, vanilla and chocolate of my protein. I have flax seeds, and I have chia seeds. It's like fun. It's like I have all the colors of the rainbow. Mm-hmm. And then I almost always put an avocado in, because it's like the best source of healthy fat you can find. But then, I have a banana, I'll throw half a banana, not too much sugar. I have an apple, I'll throw half of that. Like, I have cucumber. Like, that's always great. More veggies, right? So make it fun, but set yourself up so that you have that on hand. And so the reason we do fast food and the reason we do all these convenience foods is because we haven't planned ahead. And I mean, I've totally been guilty of this. Even now, like if I haven't planned ahead and then all of a sudden hunger strikes and I'm hangry, like I know better. So if there's a piece of advice I can give you is have fun with your rituals. It doesn't have to be rigid, but you do need some structure. So find a day that's going to be your food day, and maybe it's just a few hours. You don't necessarily need a whole day, but just honor your temple. Your body's your temple. You want to honor that. You deserve that. You deserve to have the kind of clean burning energy that helps you be creative, helps you realize your dreams and goals, right?
Yeah. How simple, you are what you eat. And I remember that being like kind of this cliche thing, and then it came back and they're like, oh shit, that's actually true,
Yep.
So that's great. I feel like you had there was some, you said a philosophical kind of way to approach that, or did you include that as well?
I don't know, but I did write something down that, as far as like dealing with people, because I know that like millennial skills, you're trying to learn how to show up in the world, and it's not always easy. And I think one of the big reframes I've made in how I try to show up in the world, and obviously like it's a practice, just like wellness. It's a practice of how you want to be and how you want to be perceived and how you want to perceive others. And I wrote down that you want to expect the best out of people. And actually, I feel like you can get the best from them when you honor their inner hero. So like, for example, situations that might make you stressed out, like dealing with the airport. Like the other day, my bag, it's the same bag I bring every time to the airport, but they're like, oh no, this doesn't fit and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then, so I just was like, I really just tried to call on this woman's like I call it your inner Buddha, or your best, your highest self, your kindness. Right. And I'm like, hey, I don't really have any other bag. Like, can you think of a creative solution to help me get on this plane? Because I'm also sort of running short on time. Like, I really just put her in my shoes, and then I asked her to be my hero. And she totally she kind of snapped out of her. I call it gatekeeper syndrome, when people are like, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, you do this and you do this. And like, no, there's actually like 15 other solutions in between your negativity and my intention, right? So I think that a great way to go through the world is just really knowing that we're all the same on the inside. We all want to be seen, heard, loved, understood. Like, we all want those things. Even if somebody's, just showing their butt to you, just being nasty, it actually probably means that they're not feeling significant, that maybe they're going through something. So coming from a place of compassion, and then also just expecting someone to show up and do their best, and calling on it for them. So I've done this also with the Uber driver. One time I left my makeup bag with $700 of cash in it. And it was one of those things where we thought, oh, that's gone. Because it was like, this guy was driving a jalopy. Like, if I was in my judging state, I'd say there's no way he's giving that back to me. But I had to think about like, actually, okay, and I really approached it with like, putting my intention into the universe. But also when I called him, I was like, so I found out he did find it, but I just didn't think he'd have the money in it. Right. So I just said, hey, to this guy, I was like, hey, I just want you to know you're my hero. Thank you so much. You have so much integrity for returning this to me. And guess what? He returned the whole thing. So even if he was thinking about going the other way, I called on his best self to come and show up. And I ended up giving him $100 as a thank you. So, like, you never know so it's all about, like, I think it's really important just to allow that and to expect the best out of people.
And I'm trying to think through the lens of a young person or a millennial, because we're so, even though we're so connected through the internet, we're so disconnected from actual people. So I think that our generation, it would be much quicker to just judge the other way, as opposed to, even seeing the opportunity in that. So that's great.
Yeah, I think it's helped me a lot to start living that way, because, I feel it too. I have an online business. I thought it would be way more connected than it feels sometimes. So I intentionally put connection into my life. And if someone wants to connect, like when you asked me, I was like, yes, I will. I'd love to.
I appreciate that, and also your willingness to just to add value to people is something that I wish more people had, and I wish I had more of it naturally. I think so. It's great. I got a couple questions. You can dive in as little as much as you want. Do you have a favorite YouTube video that you go back to often, or recommend, or watch often, frequently?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Brendan Burchard, and I like his quick and his videos are titled in a way where you can really find what you're needing right now, like how to overcome fear or how successful people think. And I find that you know, he's just real and right on, and I'm a fan, and I've been to his programs. He's great. If I'm looking for a little like fun, creative, spunky, like funny and awesome personal development, I love Marie Forleo.
Hmm.
Her videos, she's so creative. She throws so much joy and funness, and she's a representative of an entrepreneur who has multiple interests and is representing all of them in her art. So I love her. And obviously, I love Tony Robbins. His new, if you have more time, this is not like a quick video, but his new documentary was like, it brought me right back to UPW, and I'm like, ah! I was like crying and like, yes, I'm gonna set a new standard. So Tony's awesome. Yeah, so those are probably my go-to. And if I'm feeling a little funky, I will throw that on, and it'll be going in the background, and I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. All of a sudden, I'm in a different state.
It was great. It was that was a powerful movie for sure.
Yeah.
If you could go back to either your 20-something-year-old self and you could instill one habit, one skill, or one ritual that you feel would make a significant impact on your future, what would you go back and change or instill in that 20-something-year-old?
Great question. I would say I would tell her, you are beautiful just as you are. You are good enough right now. You have everything you need within you now. I think knowing that is everything. Like, you know, we all have mentors, we all have teachers, but at the end of the day, when it's time to create, you have to do it. And knowing that you always had it, you always will have it, that it's anything you need is within you now. I would tell her that, and I would tell her not to worry about what other people think, and not to let that stop you. I think a lot of women and men, but I think women really struggle with this. We want to get like 98% of it figured out before we're willing to put our ass out there. Sorry. But I think I actually really admire that about guys, that they're more willing to throw it out and just try it, right? So I think that would be what I would tell her, is just, yeah.
That's great. Is there anything that I missed? I know you had written down some things. Is there anything else that you feel would be helpful to share with the Millennial Skills community?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, like, I'm actually in the middle of creating a course, and I just want to bring this up because it came up for me, you know, that my course is based on 4 foundations. So I'll share that with you guys so that it's valuable for you, hopefully. We talked about epic fuel, right? We talked about what you're putting in your body, but also movement, rest, and connection. Those are I consider those the 4 foundations. And if you're suffering or you're struggling in your life, look at those 4 areas. Do you have a ritual in each of those areas? Are you getting enough rest? Are you getting enough sleep? Literally, being dehydrated will take down your cognitive functioning 30%. Like, hello, like that's no bueno. Like when we're out there giving it our all and we're functioning at 30% less, even having a couple hours like deficient of sleep, it's like you're running around having drunken a couple beers. So those things are important. And I used to think, and I used to hear this when you're young, you're like, oh, I can sleep when I die. Well, shoot, you know, I actually went through somebody who was way too young to pass away, passing away, and that changed my perspective on that. And I really, like, as far as my foundation, those things, if I'm feeling sad or lonely, I immediately go to the foundation. Am I getting enough sleep? Have I moved today? You know, how's my fuel? And then have I connected? I'm feeling lonely. There's something I call it entrepreneurial loneliness. If that's seeping in, what do I need to do? Well, and here's a great piece of advice that I try to live by is, whatever it is you're missing, you want to give that. So if you're feeling disconnected and sad and lonely, you need to give connection, love, and support to someone else. And that will literally solve that in an instant.
Yeah, you got to give what you need to get. That's that's incredible.
Reciprocity. It's the law of reciprocity.
And where could they find you, Nicole, if they wanted to reach out or learn more about this course?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm you can email me at Nicole at theartofepicwellness.com, and that's also that's my website is theartofepicwellness.com. And yeah, and so the rituals course is right on there on the tab. And yeah, you could check it out. I think I'm in the beta process now, but the first round, and you know what, if any of your people come in, I could give a special coupon code to them if you want like a
Ooh,
beta 2 price. So what would we call it? Skills?
yeah, let's call it skills
Skills with a Z or
with an
skills with
S.
okay. Okay, I'll make you guys a special coupon code for half price because I know you're millennials and you're saving your money. I
Yeah,
respect that.
that
I
would be
respect
great.
that.
You know, one thing I would say, Nicole, and I want to say this to the audience, but also to you, is I just thank you for your willingness to give of yourself. You know, I experienced that in person the other week, and it was I got to say our conversation was one of the highlights of the entire trip, and it just gave me a lot of I don't know, it just made me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and I think that's what you have a real gift of doing, and so I know anybody who follows you and listens to you, they'll get that same feeling.
Oh, thank you so much. That means the world to me, Hector. That's awesome.
I
And you're coming on my show, so that'll be fun.
I will be there. That will be fun. So, other than that, find Nicole, the Art of Epic Wellness podcast. Learn about that, and I think that course is going to be really, really cool. So, thank you guys
Yeah.
for being here today, and we'll catch you on the next time.